Alright, so our project now is we are going to be attaching these pieces of leather to our straps so that we can actually fix these to the sides of our Mandalorian flak vest. I've actually sewn these straps in advance. There were some denim inside as well as some batting material just to give them a little bit of thickness, then sewed here. I also hand sewed the snaps on here, and these will match up to the snaps that are on the vest itself. And these are more decoration than anything else. The vest itself will mainly be held in place by Velcro, but these straps on the outside will make it look like they're being held by those. What we have been doing is cutting out pieces of leather to put around the snap. Then we take contact cement, as I've done here, and we go ahead and fix the leather in place, giving room for the snap to show through. Once that's dried, we'll put one row of stitching, just a line of stitching on 3 sides there, and then we'll take the adhesive, secure this side, and then we'll do the same thing here, 3 sides. So that hopefully by the time we're done, all of our straps will look like this. You can see here hand stitching, holding it in place. And again, just try to stick with the colors. I haven't done anything video-wise as far as building my Mandalorian Mercs costume, but I'm going to do my best to try to document it moving forward on videos. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. Again, this is here at my kitchen table, so apologize for the acoustics, but moving forward it'll probably just be some very fast editing as you see me stitching the things in place. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use our wing dividers to mark a stitch line, and again notice this piece of leather has already been glued with contact cement on the inside. But I want to put a line here just to give me an idea of where I have to lay down those stitches. And there are lots of videos out there that teach you how to stitch leather as well as the different tools that you'll need. I have a pricking iron that I happen to like, my favorite one, a small maul, it's a hammer. And what I do is I'll go ahead and line up the pricking iron on the line that I just made. Don't want to go too far back on this one. Actually, I'm going to go inside the line, because I did forget that we have to leave room for that outside stitch. And again, not too many people are going to see this one because it is going to be inside. Don't really need it to go all the way through because I'll have a stitching awl that I will use to puncture all the way through both the leather and the canvas material. So you'll notice here I've got the stitches in place. Once this is sewn together, you'll see the stitches come through the back. This will be folded over and glued in place, and then I'll have another row of stitching just on the outside. Again, just trying to keep this in place, again, just for decoration, most of it. Alright, I've run a row of stitching around the inside of this one side of my strap. What I'm going to do now is run another row here. For those of you that watched earlier, I was able to use this pricking iron to actually make holes in the leather, just to mark. And again, this is kind of thick, so it's not only going through the leather, it's also going through this canvas denim and interfacing stitching, or excuse me, material that I've made this strap out of. So to make sure that I don't have any problems with passing my needles through, and again I like to cut off about 6 to 8 times the length of thread that I'm going to need for the stitch. I like to do a saddle stitch. This isn't going to be a fancy one where you see the cast over stitching on a stitching pony. This will just be done by hand. For those of you that are wondering, I am using the John James 002 needle, saddler's harness needles, as well as the Ritza Tiger thread. This is a 0.8 size thread. Again, there are lots of videos that teach people how to stitch leather, how to make leather products. This is not one of them. This is just, again, showing you how to kind of put some details on your cosplay outfits, whether that be Mandalorian Mercs like the one I'm working on, or any variety of genres. You can use these stitching methods. And again, it just adds a little more detail. Again, going back to this pricking iron, I wanted to make sure that also I explain the difference between an awl versus the scratch awl. So again, your scratch awl is round, and if I were to puncture the leather with this, it would just leave a bunch of round holes. What I do with a stitching awl, this one actually has more of a diamond shape to it. And if you can see here closely, the stitch itself is slanted, or excuse me, the hole is slanted. And that's what allows you to have that stitch, the saddler stitch. Again, this isn't anything fancy that's going to be sold as a product for wallets or anything. This is just to get some leather affixed to these straps. But again, that little bit of extra effort goes a long way in making a costume. Once I've run this entire stitch, and you'll see it, it'll be very, very quick, hopefully, fast forward. I will snip off the edge, and then you will see me using my thread zapper. A lot of folks will use a lighter. This here is just, you can push this button, it heats up the element on the tip. It'll get glowing red, and it'll actually burn the thread off. So again, I'm going to get started, and hopefully it won't take too long to rush through this, but again, you don't need to have a stitching pony. You can actually stitch this by hand, and it hopefully, again, won't take too long. You'll also notice when I push through, I want to make sure that I line up my needles, make sure that the thread's even. It's almost like lacing your tennis shoe. You want to make sure that you have enough thread on both sides, which I do. And then once I place that lead needle in, I always like to open up the hole there and get going. Makes it much easier to pass the second needle through. You're going through the same hole. Alright, so there we have it. We did a single row of stitching on both sides. Our next step is we're going to fold this leather over, secure that with some contact cement. Once that is in place, we'll run an additional line of stitching and hold that again in place here. Yeah, should wind up with a pretty decent looking strap. Again, these are not needed, but definitely adds those little details to your costume. Also, anytime you want to work with leather, you want to add something, you want to thicken up or stiffen up a material, you could always add some leather to it. And again, very, very easily. There are countless videos on YouTube showing people how to stitch. One of my favorites is Nigel Armitage leather out of the UK, as well as Leotis leather. There's even some more stateside. Quarter, I believe, is another. But anyway, lots of good videos out there with people that have a lot more experience and expertise in leather craft than I do. Again, but just something I wanted to put together, and again, maybe help some folks out there that think maybe this is too hard, but definitely it's not. You just have to have the time and a few of the materials. Again, most of the things that you'll need you can get at a Tandy supply store, very inexpensive. Once you want to dedicate more time and money into this hobby or craft, then you might want to upgrade and buy some more expensive equipment. But anyway, next time when we come back, we will be sewing the outside edge, and then we will be done. And hopefully somebody finds this to be quite helpful.